There's a thing in human thinking that must be unimpeachable. We convince ourselves of truths because we need them to be true. Then I guess we hang out with others who share the same need and consensus on the truth. Since this seems a fact of life, there's probably no point in saying it is bad. It is something most likely we should learn to live with, but might be modifiable. I must learn to live with it right now. I must be doing it too, so I'm just watching it. As these scripts go on, I get stung over and over where I once was allied and trusting. These stings are provocative to the scripts, so on it goes. I think this one is part of the one-man syndrome, which I've made fun of in the past. Documentaries of the English Industrial Revolution tend to have some stentorian fellow narrating, and at some point he will say, when describing the building of the London Underground, for instance, that one man saved the day, just as Oppenheimer is about Oppie, the one man, instead of what would be intolerable in a movie today, that a whole civilization dropped the bombs on Japan just as sure as they are dropping them on Gaza. We have decided on singularity here, culturally, which is nifty. It wasn't the Germans, it was Hitler. It's not the Russians, it is Putin. I'm not sure why. For people I know from all walks of life, this is how the world turns, from the most accredited and published to the bus driver. Is this one-manism about culture? Do we think that we might be that one man ourselves on some project, that someone will make a statue of us and say, without him or her? So it's down to good old human megalomania? I think that might be. We've had to suffer so many kings and queens down the centuries, and is the position of my clan just the serf's adaptation to this reality? Not my fault, certainly not our fault, except we invented kings. Is this perhaps another source of what eventually becomes the silliness that is monotheism? One God and one devil, teams to join, and some of us will instinctively know that what our group is doing is wrong, but we can shirk the biggest blame by saying he did it instead of we did it, are doing it. Or maybe it is just that good old competition that dominates so many psyches that we encourage with every homily and every TV commercial. I'm siding with the serf explanation today. I had a good night. Long centuries of human beings, all with big brains, kept at bay by church, law, and idiots, assigned to ditch digging and hunger. Was there not ever a time when an individual, if not a group of these people, no less talented and compassionate than their rulers, about whom much has been written, much evidence collected of not deserving their place in the sun, stood up and said, enough? Animal Farm, George Orwell, reveals an interesting truth, but it is a story. A cartoon of the Russian Revolution going all wrong. Well, yes, Trotsky's, Lenin's, and Stalin's relied on the people's default one-man fixity. So no wonder. But what if? It is almost impossible to imagine a life without leaders. What would you do? Should whole populations be held accountable for the horrors of our histories? Is not the leader on some level doing what their people ask them? In this sense, we are all democracies. Maybe the thoughts that bind us need checking, so we stop getting to cul-de-sacs where we elect Hitlers or Stalins or Trumps, that we don't cower so, surrounding our singleness for the sake of huddled warmth, that we don't need so much affirmation, that we particularly stop demanding the young sacrifice themselves, and that our adults maybe stop esteeming their selves by assuming status and expertise they do not earn or possess. So yes, a lot more accountability, no shortcuts, which we have created for some reason, to be sure, some hole in the soul. Not suggesting or saying if you don't, but a feather in a cap might be to say the reason for this might be that Netanyahu or Trump are winning elections because they need something that collectively adds up to these dudes, because you need something that collectively adds up to these dudes, and that would be all of you. That the crowd outside the Trump rally will declare they want a dictator for a bit because you do too, just not him. that the hero/scapegoat is really dumb, but it is what we have chosen over all the rest for an archetype. I'm pretty sure if I ran into this Democrat, this child in the wilderness, small d Democrat, they will not post about their allegiance to the journalist, the evidences that identify who it is that is destroying us, because it cannot be us. It has to be them. So here it is. Is it necessary to make Navalny a hero because Putin is your bogeyman? On this thug, remember someone was poisoned in the movie Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Wasn't I being asked to root for the team that followed the traitor and killed him? And how many US presidents are charged with war crimes? And Navalny's white nationalism does not attract me. His sense of humor does. He might have been a great guy. I don't know. Neither do you. I have no evidence. But I don't have the hero need to fill in the empty space of my knowledge with his heroism. Doesn't one lead to the other? They are codependent. Those who heroize must demonize. It would be useful to remember that Churchill was as bigoted as Hitler, in a different direction, for sure, as far as we know, and he won. This seems to be our essential glue. Before we eat, we say thanks to our hero. We all do, for protecting us from our demons. So, in my opinion, I would try this on the thorny homicides of the day. Both sides are justified. Murder is on the table. Hamas was justified on the evidence and testimony of too many people who were not grinding axes, and Israel is justified by history and October the 7th. In my opinion, both went over the top, but I'm not them, I'm not there, and neither are you. The position of the West is darker, expressing the subject of this script very sickly, vicariously. If you are the democracies you brag to be, you are all Zionists. If your government reflects your voice, if they are sending guns and money, you are that. If you demand I vote for Biden in November, I will tell you I am not pro-Zionist as a pretext for murder. If you do vote for him, as with Labour in the UK, apparently, and every European power except Ireland, you are pro-Zionist. You are all justified, yea. But as I see it, if this is an expression of your need of heroes and villains, you are using your otherwise human sickness to justify murder, just like the time before and the time before that. You are using your need, your human need of the inhuman.